Welcome back to the Podmen, the wrestling podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of the show are available through Spotify, Podmen, iTunes, wherever you pick up audio versions of the show, you will find us there. And if you'd like to contact the show, we're on Facebook, the Podmen, and on Twitter at TPodmen. Or you could also just drop your comments into the episode here while you're dropping a like, share, and subscribe. Joining me tonight for an Extreme Rules preview, my man, Darren McCumsky. Darren, how are we doing, my man?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Sometimes.
If anyone wants to contact me, barber, hit me up privately. Yeah, I'll let you know. Yeah.
Must have done the beard and all today and everything, did he? They got the whole works done.
Yeah, she did. She did the whole shoot match, man. I have a few bits going on the weekend, so got the whole shoot match done. Looking fresh as daisy. I have to tell you, feeling great.
Tell you, barbers have bounced back. Here we go.
Oh, big time.
Let's get into this Extreme Rules. Some interesting matchups in it. Let's start. Liv Morgan versus Carmella.
Yeah, it's just a damn squib, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, doesn't.
It's just a damn squib. Like, you're kind of like, Jesus, lads, we're scraping the barrel if this is on the pay-per-view. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's move on then. United States Championship match: Damian Priest versus Sheamus versus Jeff Hardy. Interesting dynamic here. Jeff Hardy going into a triple threat, and it is Extreme Rules. What you thinking on this one?
Yeah, I was kind of a little bit surprised when they threw Jeff into the mix, you know. But again, it's Extreme Rules, and you know he's always thrived in that kind of environment. So I expect a really, really good match, to be honest. Sheamus has been putting some serious matches together over the last maybe 18 months, you know, 2 years. And Priest looks really, really good. I think he's going to be a massive star. And when you throw Hardy in there, I think, you know, the chemistry between the three of them could be very, very good. And we could be in for, you know, it could be match of the night, if I'm honest.
Yeah, Sheamus has been putting in some great work over the last year or so, hasn't he? He's been
really has, good. You know.
And Jeff as well. He slowed down a little bit, but that's no harm, really.
No, I think, you know, for longevity purposes, he needed to slow down a little bit, didn't he? You know, but he's still, you know, Jeff's still a big draw, and you know, there's still fans come to the arena to see Jeff Hardy, so that's a good thing, you know.
Would it be Extreme Rules? Would you expect Jeff to pick up the belt, or do you think Damian Priest will hang on to it?
Don't know. Strange enough dynamic. I wouldn't even be surprised to see Sheamus win it back, you know. I could see them maybe doing a little program with the guys and letting them go back and forth a couple of times with the belt, maybe, just to kind of keep it relevant. And you know, I know people dropping the belt doesn't necessarily keep it relevant, but I think if there's two guys trading it, it's a little bit different, you know, because it keeps kind of fuel on the fire for that kind of rivalry and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Who are you going with then?
I'm gonna punt with Sheamus.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna punt with Sheamus, and it's a little shot in the dark, but I think we might see him. Yeah. We might see him lift the championship again on Sunday night.
I reckon Priest retains. That's what I'm gonna go with, and I think Jeff is just the kind of curveball in there for the moments. But we shall see. Let's move on then. SmackDown Tag Team Championship: the Street Profits, who I really, really like, versus the Usos, who I also really, really like. Yeah. What you thinking on this one?
Yeah, like. Probably two of the Usos are absolutely my favourite tag team in the WWE. And I do love the Street Profits. I'm a big fan of theirs. I'm kind of surprised they haven't been pushed a little bit more. You know, I think they're a great tag team. I think, you know, the guys are good in the mic, they're good in the ring, they look good, you know. I don't know why they haven't I know they've had a few injuries and bits and pieces, but I don't know why they haven't really gone on a serious run with the belt so far. Do you know what I mean? But in the same breath, we could say something similar about the Viking Raiders, you know. Another really good tag team that I'm a big fan of, you know, and then you've got other guys that are in the mix. You've got Riddle and Orton and stuff like that. So there's a couple of kind of, you know, tag teams floating around at the minute, which is keeping the division kind of hot as well.
Who are you going for on this one?
Listen, the Usos retain for me.
So you know, okay, because it's an interesting dynamic with this match and with the main event as well, with the whole the tribe and, you know, the bloodline and all that type of stuff. So it's kind of like you don't see really either of them losing their belts, or you see them all losing their belts. It's kind of one of those things in the bloodline, isn't it? It's a hard dynamic, really, you know, because
you don't know if does Lesnar decide to come out and pick a hole in this one rather than Reigns' match, and all of a sudden they drop the belts and they're like, Roman, look what he did. You've got to sort this out. And, there's all sorts of angles you can go up here. But I don't know. I think for now they'll retain.
Yeah, I think it's a safe enough shout, all right. But I do like the Street Profits a lot, and I wouldn't be too upset either way.
No, definitely not.
SmackDown Women's Championship, Bianca Belair versus Becky Lynch. We had strong views on this at the last pay-per-view that we thought it was a bit harsh on Bianca dropping the belt and stuff like that. What you're feeling now a month on?
Yeah, I think it was still really, really harsh, and I can kind of understand the reasoning behind it. Well, not necessarily the reason behind, the squash match, but the reason behind bringing Becky back when they did. Obviously, there was a reaction there to what had gone on in AEW and stuff like that with Punk, and everything was so hot. I believe there was phone calls made on, the night before and stuff like that, and they were pulling Lesnar and pulling Becky to get them involved and stuff. So, it was a bit of a rash decision, if I'm honest. And I don't think it was a great idea to build Belair the way they did, to squash her like that. So I would think that with things have settled down a little bit now, they'll have had a better idea what to do, and I think we'll see a really, really good match. Now, I do still think Becky will retain, but I think it'll be closer, and I think it'll give you that foot into a next match, that people might go, oh, she was really, really close. She might just decide, listen, I put it out on the line and I didn't get over it, but, give me another chance, that type of thing,
Yeah, maybe do the decider at Survivor Series or something like that.
Yeah, so and 2 out of 3 falls, or I don't know, something, Yeah,
I just think with the work Becky put in, I think this match is better set up, if you like, because they've had time to lay some foundation there. Becky's been outstanding as a heel, I have to say. And even the way she attacked her in her hometown and that contract signing stuff and all, it's just, and the way she played up to the MSG crowd was phenomenal.
And you know what? She looks phenomenal, man. She really, really does. She's gone off and she's had the chiseler and stuff like that. And you're just thinking, now she's an athlete, so you're not necessarily thinking what shape she's coming back in. But I actually think she's come back in better shape, if that's possible. She's done so well to come back, and as female heels go, she's right up there. She's very, very good in the mic, and she knows exactly what to do.
How do we carry on the feud if Becky was to get the win again on Sunday night? It's hard to carry it on if she's won 2, isn't it?
It can be, but unless you give it, that Belair maybe takes the match to her and she's a number of near falls and stuff like that, and really puts a beating on Becky, but Becky ultimately gets over the line. Maybe a roll up or a pull of the tights,
foot on the ropes or something. Yeah,
something that kind of cocky heelish, and something that would lead us into at least one more. Where I think again they could get a little bit more out of this and give us something at maybe Survivor Series.
Yeah, so it's not time for the EST to get the belt back quite yet.
I don't think so. I don't think they squash her that quickly to give it back to her in 4 weeks,
Yeah, absolutely.
But listen, don't forget, this is, the evil genius Vince McMahon. We just don't know what goes on that head of his.
Absolutely. Raw women's match, Alexa Bliss versus Charlotte Flair.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's been strange, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has, but it's there's been a lot of stuff being teased at the moment, with these dolls that they're going on about and stuff like that. And the talk is that I read in one article today, the talk going around at the moment is maybe Bliss could pick up the win using the dolls like a voodoo doll or something like that to, something hokey like that or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't think Charlotte would be up for that at all, do you?
Oh, it's really taken away an awful lot of credibility from her, isn't it? If it's something along the lines of, Bliss, has the 2 dolls and she's pinning one on top of the other and Charlotte just lies down, and that's
this was the hokey talk going around this week, that this is what could actually happen. And I don't think I don't think that outcome would do either girl any favors, really. I think it's just a bit too hokey to believe, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that we're venturing into the Luchasaurus fucking region at that stage, you know.
Yeah, this is female Papa Shango stuff, really, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, man. I don't know, and again, I feel like we've almost been teased with this, you know, with Charlotte Connor out and saying, you know, who are you, and you know, like where's Alexa Bliss gone and stuff like that. Do we see a return of Alexa, you know, of Twisted Bliss, of all of that, and this kind of shite disappears? I don't know. I think there's so many options with it, but I think there's quite a few of them that necessarily aren't great options. But again, you just don't know who's been writing this story. Like, it could be anything.
It'd be a massive step up for her to put Charlotte down for the 3, wouldn't it?
Oh my God. If that happens, it's got to be something hokey to make it believable, you know.
Yeah.
She doesn't beat her other than, you know, the Papa Shango or the fucking, you know, something like that. It's just not going to happen for my money. But again, it's hard to put a finger on the way they're going with this, you know.
And I suppose without getting into it as well, though, you also have the effect of potentially the dark side of the Ring episode that came out and stuff like that. So I'm assuming that wouldn't affect anything, but you never know with the way they approach these things, you know.
You'd have to think, you know, listen, she's obviously, you know, there's a bloodline there to Rick, but you know, she can't have had any hand actor part in what was going on, or it's very hard for her to be penalised over type thing, you know. But
she's royalty. She's royalty in this division, really, and
and you know what? She's royalty for a good reason.
Yeah,
she is absolutely amazing,
and royalty without the attachment.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, she's proven herself more than once, and she'll keep doing that for my money. I don't really see a better female wrestler in the world than Charlotte Flair.
Yeah, good shout. Becky be there or thereabouts, wouldn't she? Of course, without a shadow of a doubt. But Charlotte is just.
But would and you know, and I have to throw it out there. Would we be as high on Becky if she wasn't Irish?
Oh, I think we would. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, she's a global superstar at this stage, regardless of her Irish. You know what I mean? I think she's a phenomenal worker in the ring. I think she's brilliant. I think there's so many layers to her. She's so dynamic as well as a wrestler and stuff like that. I think she's a huge superstar. Being Irish is, you know, maybe in the beginning that's the way it goes and it's part of it, but I don't think the fan base at the moment, like obviously we'd be huge fans of her. I know her and stuff like that, and personally we'd be invested in her, you know. But look, she's a star wherever she goes, you know.
You see, I just think for me personally, I think her work is so much better on the mic than Charlotte's. And that's what makes her the superstar. I think as wrestling fans go and as purists and, you know, watching in the ring, I don't think she holds a flame to Charlotte in ring. But her character, and as you said, with those layers and the way she speaks, and because when Becky Lynch speaks, people stop and listen. You know, and that's a star quality in itself. That's a quality that very few people have. And that for me elevates her. But for in-ring, I just think Charlotte's absolutely outrageous, man. I really, really do.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a contrasting style as well, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think both in terms of their styles, I mean, I think they're both very, very good. Let's move on. This is the one that's going to generate a lot of conversation. The main event, the Universal Championship, Finn Balor versus Roman Reigns. They rolled out the Demon big style. It's hard to believe they'd roll out the Demon this way and not follow through. I mean, what's your overall thinking on it? Like,
I think it's been such a strange journey for Finn, man. It really, really has, you know. You look back, obviously, at SummerSlam a couple of years ago, and he wins the belt and he gets injured, and, you know, he comes back then and he's maybe not the big name that he was, and the fans don't take to him as they did previously, and he goes back down to NXT again, just shows everybody what he's capable of, you know, unbelievable in NXT. And then they bring him back up and you're just like, all right, great, we're going to get this. And, you know, Cena obviously pops the bubble and, you know, you're thinking what's happening now? And then he's back in the picture and I don't know whether they look like they're building them or they're only giving them a little taste of it. yeah, it's a strange one for me. Like, I agree with you. I think it's nuts if they're bringing the Demon out to have him beaten, or is this, is this another notch on Roman Reigns' bedpost?
And as you said earlier, the introduction potentially of Lesnar into the circle as well. And I mean, we know they've announced Lesnar versus Reigns for Crown Jewel. So how do they set that storyline up? I mean, the storyline kind of sets itself for Crown Jewel.
Yeah.
But I mean, in terms of moving into that and creating that sort of wave to it. And then the other option is, I mean, with Finn Balor coming back into that universal picture, is this the time to complete that circle that was left open due to that injury?
Yeah. Yeah. And to be honest, I could very, very easily see that. Like I think we could see Reigns and Lesnar as two just behemoths going at it. They don't need a belt to create the feud. There's enough bad blood there for now, and we've invested enough in it. And I think Balor maybe as the Demon, and Seth Rollins to bring this thing kind of full circle at maybe Crown Jewel or a Survivor Series or something like that. I think personally that'd be a great way to go. But I know there's obviously other names that you can throw into the hat there, like, because Edge and Rollins still probably has a little bit of meat on the bone as well. So do you try and, like, would you love to see Edge, Rollins, and Balor? I would pay big money to see that, man. There's no point in me lying.
I just don't like triple threats. I just think, you know what happens with that? If you've got Edge and Rollins and Balor there, someone's gonna sit outside, aren't they, while this match takes place, nearly like a fan. You know what I mean? And I just hate those triple threat matches where guys end up on their ass outside the ring for long portions of the match and stuff like that.
I think done properly, that doesn't have to happen. But I think the issue, or maybe stuff that we've seen previously, was you were seeing bigger guys, and maybe something was going to happen and they would leave a bigger guy outside because maybe didn't have the engine to go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In these triple threats, a Strowman, a Lesnar, any of these kind of guys, maybe, that don't want to do 25, 30 minute, matches. But yeah, like, I think guys that are in that kind of shape, like, we've been treated this week, to Daniel Bryan and Kenny Omega, 30 minutes, reaching the time limit and something like that. There's no reason why you couldn't have 30 minutes of Balor, Rollins, and Edge, and all kind of interconnecting and stuff like that. And again, do you have the Demon? Do you have, Edge coming in with that Brood thing again? There's loads of different little things that you could look at. Now, again, it's our big issue, or not our big issue, our big kind of guessing thing is, like, you just don't know who's putting these storylines together, because there hasn't seemed to be a whole lot of cohesion over the last little while with storylines.
Yeah.
And everything seemed to be very, very short-sighted. And you look to a pay-per-view rather than looking at how can we build this after the pay-per-view, and it's starting fresh on a Monday night. Then somebody comes out and all of a sudden you're like, what happened to that feud? Oh, it's just gone. The pay-per-view happened and it's gone, and you're like, oh, all right, I wasn't finished with it.
It's the first time in a while as well where we've had a main event in a pay-per-view that it's not obvious. There's so many different outcomes that could happen. Maybe the Lesnar getting involved. We haven't even mentioned Cena. You know what I mean? God knows what could happen there potentially. And then the question is, does the tribal chief, does he keep the title and bring the title into Crown Jewel against Lesnar? Does that match need a title? That's been a lot of the debate this week on the wrestling forums and stuff. A match of that magnitude of Crown Jewel probably doesn't need a belt. So does that lend itself to the fact that Balor should get the belt? Is he going to get the belt in the true sense of the Demon, or is it going to be interference by Lesnar? So Lesnar at some stage can come back and go, well, I want a piece of that because I had a part to play in it, and that kind of thing. Does it lay a foundation there for Balor versus Lesnar down the road? Or, there's so many different dynamics to this match.
And we had Lesnar and Balor a couple of years ago at the Royal Rumble, if you remember.
Yeah.
And it wasn't actually a terrible match.
No, it was awesome.
Finn put in a really good effort that night, and Lesnar put him across quite well, and then obviously the ending and stuff like that. But I mean, that's something that could be looked at, and where Balor kind of says, you know what, you got the better of Finn Balor, but you've never got the better of the Demon. And then do we see a Demon versus Lesnar? at Survivor Series or something like that, and there's possibilities, I suppose. There's there's options here.
I suppose with him being the Demon as well, you could go down the road of a Survivor Series team that would have Edge as part of the Brood, which would sit in nicely with the Demon and stuff like that as part of a Survivor Series team. I don't know what else you'd make it up with at this stage, but that could sit together as a dynamic, And then I suppose the other conundrum as well is if Balor was to go out as the Demon and win the belt on Sunday, does he rock up to Raw then on Monday as Finn Balor or as the Demon? And then, you've that dynamic as well. It's nearly like that sort of split personality Jekyll and Hyde thing. Is Finn Balor the champion, or is the Demon Finn Balor the champion? And what way do you look at that as well, and how do you approach it? Because I find if he goes out and he wins the belt, that would be unbelievable on Sunday as the Demon. But then if you rock up on Raw then as Finn Balor, it's how does that dynamic work then,
Yeah, it is a strange one, and obviously you had the similar sort of thing with Wyatt, didn't you? The Fiend, and then you just got Bray Wyatt, and it was like you seen this guy kind of pogo sticking down the thing in this jumper, and you were like, what's going on here? And I do get the whole that character, the Fiend character, needs to be protected at times and not just rolled out on Monday night for the crack, but there's also an element of there has to be buy-in. And Bray Wyatt in a woolly jumper with his dreads and his little
and his chinos
and a check chinos, like it didn't cut the mustard,
no,
and it really didn't. The Fiend was so hot, and I mean they made big mistakes with that character, and they could have done stuff so much better. Somebody like the Fiend doesn't necessarily need to be on Raw every week, and he could have been. You could have been watching him, like the Undertaker used to
develop the want. Develop the want for it.
Yeah. And sometimes less is more.
Yeah.
And every 3 or 4 weeks he pops in, attacks someone, starts something, does but they were too busy giving us Bray Wyatt and his chinos, and you're like and Rambling Rabbit, and and some of the stuff was good, some of the stuff was funny, but there was so much of it that you just thought this is so contrived, like we could. It's getting a bit silly now.
It was borderline insulting to the wrestling fans, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, it was. It absolutely was.
So how? I mean, I wonder how this dynamic works if he does pick up the belt on Sunday, because Monday night on Raw, obviously, they defend or on SmackDown, he's on, I should say. They come out and they defend the belts most weeks. But the thing about it is, in order to have the Demon. This journey that Finn Balor goes on, where you have to bring the Demon, you have to push him so far to bring the Demon out in him, which is like the Jekyll and the Hyde situation. You know what I mean? The American Werewolf in London type thing. Where you have to push so far. The Incredible Hulk is a good example, I suppose. Yeah. But it's if he comes out on SmackDown then on Friday and he's Finn Balor and he has to defend the belt, and it's how does that dynamic work as well, because he got back to the top of the mountain again as the Demon. He was at the top of the mountain when he got injured as the Demon. You know what I mean? And I'm just wondering how that dynamic works.
Yeah, he was, but and don't forget, and like for me, he has gotten back to the top of the tree by being Finn Balor again on NXT.
100%.
And Finn Balor for me has put himself right back up where he belongs, in the upper echelons of wrestling circles. And I think regardless of what company you're a fan of, you say Finn Balor's name and people go, oh man, he's an absolute baller, that kid, you know what I mean? So like I think it could be legitimized week to week. I think there would need to be do more to put him over week to week. And let him do stuff, we want to see him clean beat people. We want to see him coup de grace. We want to see him do things, you know what I mean? And go on that role as Finn Balor. And only maybe when he's really backed up against the wall and, when the odds are against him, that's when the shirt gets ripped off, and that's when those red veins start to appear through the black skin and, that type of thing. And it could be believable, but again, it's just how it's done. Like we have so little confidence in WWE's creative process at the minute that it doesn't lend itself to thinking that it's going to be something organic and that works very, very well, you know?
Yeah, it could be like a situation where like you have a couple of promos leading to the monthly pay-per-view. And on that journey of those promos, you know, Finn Balor is reminding whoever the opponent is who's chosen, you don't want to bring this other guy out. This is not the guy. It's like what they did, remember, with Mick Foley with Cactus Jack and all that kind of stuff. And remember, he ripped off the clothes and he goes, it's Cactus Jack or whatever it is. You know what I mean? And like, remember that feud with Triple H, I think it was at the time. You know what I mean? So I think it's a similar situation, but certainly it's a very interesting dynamic in this match. You know, he's back Balor with a bang. I mean, and that demon character's, you know, it's absolute money, knock it out of the park without a shadow of a doubt. So I suppose, who are you picking?
I'm gonna go for Balor under the influence of interference.
And Balor picks up the title?
Yeah, I think he will.
Yeah.
I just think it's wasted on Lesnar and Reigns. Not that it's not wasted, obviously, but I just think it doesn't need it. And you could add so much more to other matches by having the belt on the line, you know?
Yeah, and absolutely. I suppose if the belt goes to him, it does lend itself to maybe matches against Edge, or as you said, that match against Rollins that we think could be built up into a huge match out of WrestleMania.
And we haven't seen, you know, who we haven't seen in a while, or seen enough of for my money, who could come back, and, you know, Kevin Owens.
You
know, because I know obviously we've got this whole thing about the deal, and it's up soon enough, and, you know, he's obviously looking towards what's going on in the grass on the side of on the other side of the garden. He's seeing obviously Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, and he's going, might have a bit of that action.
Yeah.
Is there something done there to appease him, to try? Because at this stage, you've got to think WWE can't just keep losing superstars.
Yeah, and in fairness, he was the benefactor of the belt, remember, as well.
Right.
So that's an interesting dynamic there straight away.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Listen, it's great. We'll know on Sunday how our picks went, and no doubt we'll review it next week. This has been your 4 Podmen, but only 2 tonight. Extreme Rules preview. Will Balor take the belt on Sunday night? Will Sheamus take the US belt on Sunday night? Who knows? Will the Usos retain? Will the tribal chief and the bloodline still be intact, or will they be left empty-handed? Till next time, Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube, Spotify for audio versions of the show. If you want to contact us, let us know. Drop your comments into the episode, and while you're at it, bang that like on the video as well. This has been our Extreme Rules preview with myself and Darren, and on Twitter @TPodmen. We will chat to you again next week when this is all part of history. Cheers, Darren.
Thanks, Paul.